On this video, I am going to continue the book of Job, looking at the grammatical analysis followed by commentary. We have now worked our way up to chapter 34, verse 16 and following, and I have pretty much tried to work through all of the preceding chapters as well as 38 to 42, looking at the Hebrew text, looking at the grammar inductively and analytically, followed then by a brief commentary. As we come to this section of the book, we have seen in chapter 34 that Job is basically making his second speech. We have seen that he turns to Job's accusations against God's character in verses 2 to 9, and then defends the righteous and omniscient character of God in verses 10 to 30, and then exposes Job's folly and ignorance in the remainder of the chapter. So now we are in the section where he is defending the righteous and omniscient character of God. We worked our way up through verse 15, and at verse 16 to 20, he turns from his wider audience that he has been addressing and returns to address Job, and particularly concerning God's justice as the world's ruler. And so we'll pick it up in verse 16, and I'll read the Hebrew and talk about the grammar and then a brief commentary. So it reads, Ve'im bina shem'a zot. If now you have understanding, hear this. Shem'a is a cow imperative, masculine singular from shama. And then he continues, ha'azina lekol milai. That is, hearken or hear the voice of my words. Give attention to the voice of my words. Ha'azina is from azan. It's a hifil imperative, a masculine singular from azan. So give ear and hearken to the voice of my words. This verse then is the turning point where Elihu now is going to address Job in particular or individually. So at verse 17, it continues, Ha'af sonei mishpat yachavosh ve'im sadik kabir tarshia. Shall one indeed who hates justice govern? Or will you condemn him that is just and mighty? Or one that is just and mighty, will you condemn? Here we have sonei is the cow participle masculine singular from sana, to hate. So even as one that hates right, or shall one who hates that which is right govern? And will you condemn? And we have another question. The righteous or the just and the mighty, will you condemn? Tarshia is from rasha, to condemn. Here we have a hifil imperfect, second masculine singular. And so what Job is saying here is, Elihu asked the question whether or not God could govern if he hated justice. If God were unjust, it would be impossible for him to govern the world. is Elihu's argument against Job. So then we continue in verses 18 and 19. Ha'amur lemelech Beliah, is it fit to say to a king that you are Beliahu, you are base? Amor is a cow infinitive, a construct from amar, preceded by the interrogative he. So is it to say to a king, is it proper to say you are base, Rasha el Nedivim, or unto nobles that you are wicked, you are Rasha unto nobles? No, that you wouldn't do this on the human level unless they were evil. This is Job's argument. Then in verse 19, Asher lo nasa pene sarim, who does not lift up or respect the persons of princes, speaking of God, velo nikar shoah lifnei dal, nor does he regard the rich more than the poor, or before the poor. Ki ma'aseh yadav kulam, for all of them are the work of his hand. He does not lift up the faces or the persons of princes. Nasa is your cow perfect third masculine singular from Nasa, nor does he regard, Nikar is the PL perfect third masculine singular from Nakar, to regard, nor does he regard the rich before the poor. Shoah lifnei dal, for they all are the work of his hand. Kima aseyadav kulam. That is, for the work of his hands are all of them. And what Job seems to be saying here, or Elihu, kings and rulers generally are not thought of as base or wicked by their subjects. How much more then should this be true of the one who is the righteous ruler and king of the universe, the one who does not respect persons of nobility, nor regard the rich over the poor, since all are part of his creation. And that's Job's ongoing argument. So then in verse 20, it then continues, Rega yamutu v'chatzot, that is, in a moment they die, even chatzot laila, at midnight or in the middle of the night. Yamutu is the cow imperfect, third masculine plural from mut. So in a moment they die, that is the all that he's addressing here, the rich as well as the poor. And then yego ashu am v'ya avoru. The people then are shaken and pass away. Notice yego ashu is from ga'ash, to shake, and here we have a pual imperfect, third common or third masculine plural from ga'ash, vayasiru abir lo vayad. And then the mighty are taken away without hand. Yasiru is from sur, it's the cow imperfect, third masculine plural from sur. And so in verse 20, that God is impartial in his judgment is illustrated by the fact that the rich and the mighty die suddenly, like at midnight. They expire and pass away by the instrumentality of God rather than by visible human means, seems to be his argument. So then in verses 21 to 22, he continues. Ki einav al darchei ish, for his eyes are upon the ways of a man, v'ho she'adav yireh, and all of his goings he sees. Here we have the eyes of God are upon the ways of a man, and all of his goings, yireh, he sees, the cow imperfect, third masculine singular from ra'ah. Ein hoshek, verse 22, the ein salmavet, the hisater sham po ele aven. There is no darkness, and there is no deep darkness or shadow of death, where the workers of iniquity hide themselves, or to cause themselves, or to hide themselves there. There's no place for the workers of iniquity. The hisater, for them to hide themselves or to be hidden, is a nifal infinitive construct from satar, to hide, and the po'ele is the cow participle, masculine plural, from pa'al. So for the workers of iniquity to hide themselves there. There is no darkness that they can go to. And the thought here in verses 21 and 22 is God knows all of man's ways. Nothing is hidden from him. Seeing all men, those who practice iniquity are not able to hide from his sight. In other words, he sees them and they cannot hide. And so we continue then in the next verse, verse 22. So looking at verse 23, it reads, Ki lo al ish yasim od, the halok el bamishpat, for he does not appoint for man more. This is an interesting verse. He does not appoint more for man. In other words, he does not, one idea is he does not impose upon a man more than what he's guilty of. In other words, the other is he does not place more upon a man to even consider him, since God knows all along what man is doing and can punish him whenever he thinks or whenever he desires. And then it goes on, lehalok el ba mishpat, when he should go before God in judgment, literally to go before God in judgment. Here we have a cow infinitive construct from the root halak. And so the idea here is that God basically does not put upon man more than what he deserves. Or, and he's answering some of Job's previous critique of God, or he does not need more to even think about man or put his thoughts upon man, for he knows what man is doing, and he also knows the time of his judgment. So as we look at verse 23, then, when God sees a man sinning, he does not have to appoint a designated period of time for that man to appear before him in judgment, but can simply punish him directly, then, could be the thought, whenever he sees it necessary. Then in verse 24, it reads, Jaroa kabirim lo cheker. He breaks in pieces mighty men without asking or not without inquisition, v'ya amed acherim taktam, and that is, and he places others in their stead or in place of them. Yaroah is the cow imperfect third masculine singular from ra'ah, a double ayin root, to break. So the thought here is that he breaks in pieces mighty men without inquisition who are evil and sets others in their stead. When such is necessary, God breaks into pieces mighty men, as we said, without special investigation, for he knows all that every man does. He then judges them and replaces them with others, seems to be Elihu's argument. Verse 25, he then continues, Lachain yakir ba or ma badehim. Therefore, he takes knowledge of their works. V'hafak laila v'yit dakau. And he overturns them in the night, and they are crushed. Notice here, yakir is from nakar. It is a pay-noon verb, a hifil imperfect, third masculine singular from nakar. Notice the AI vowel pattern here, looking at a hifil imperfect. And he overturns them. Hafak is the cow perfect, third masculine singular from hafak. Vayit dakau. This is a hit payal imperfect, third masculine plural from daka, meaning he slaps them, or he slaps them down, is the idea, or crushes them, we could render it. A hit payal imperfect, a third masculine plural from daka. So the thought seems to be in verse 25, God in a night overturns the wicked and they are crushed, seems to be the thought. So he is constantly observing what's going on the human scene, is Elihu's argument. Tachat reshaim sefakam, he actually strikes them or slaps them in the place of the wicked, bimkom ro'im, in the place of all who are seeing. Safak is a verb that means to strike. So he strikes them, cow, perfect third masculine singular with your pronominal suffix third masculine plural in the and in the place where of those who are seeing. That is, in the sight of others. Ro'im is from ra'ah, a lamed hay verb. It's a cow participle masculine plural from ra'ah. And so while wicked men try to hide and make secret their deeds, Elihu argues God strikes them openly before others to see. So then he continues in verses 27 and 28. Asher al kain saru me'acharav. That is, because Asher al kain, because, we could translate that because they have turned aside from after him, from following him. Saru is the cow perfect third common plural from sur. And then in the next phrase, V'chol derachav lo hiskilu. In all his ways, they have not had regard to, or they have not prospered by obeying his ways. This is a Hifil perfect third common plural from Sahav. And the thought seems to be, let me go on to 28 and then summarize the two. 28 then reads, Lechavi alav sa'akat dal, v'sa'akat aniyim yishma. So they that cause the cry to bring, we could say to bring upon him, or to bring unto him the cry of the poor. V'tza'akat aniyim yishma, and he hears the cry of the afflicted. Lehavi is the cow, or is the Hifil infinitive construct from bo, to bring upon unto him, or upon him, the cry of the poor, and the cry of the afflicted he will hear. Yishma is the cow imperfect third masculine singular from Shama. So in these two verses, the reason why wicked men are punished has now been given. They are punished for not following God's ways in their oppression of the poor, Elihu is arguing. That's why they receive God's punishment. And so when God hears the cry of the afflicted, he then gives rest from the oppressing tyrant. And that continues then in verse 29. It reads, V'hu yashkit umi yarshia. That is, and he causes rest. And who can condemn? God is just. Here we have yashkit from shakat, to rest, a Hifil imperfect third masculine singular from shakat. And who then can cause to condemn? Yarshia is another Hifil imperfect third masculine singular from rasha. Veyaster panim umi yeshurenu. That is, and he hides his face. And who then can see him or behold him? Yastir is another Hifil imperfect third masculine singular from satar. Notice the AE vowel pattern of the imperfect gives it away as a Hifil stem, preceded by the vav connective. And so he will hide his face, and who can behold him? Yeshurenu from shur, it's the cow imperfect third masculine singular, followed by the hinge in the n, and the who, where the hey of the who, by reverse assimilation, has gone back into the noon, causing a doggish forte, third masculine singular pronominal suffix. So who can behold him? V'al goy v'al adam yachad. Whether it be done unto a nation or unto a man alike. And so in 29, when God hears the cry of the afflicted and gives rest from the oppressing tyrant, who can condemn him? Elihu asked. Or toward the tyrant when he hides his face in displeasure from the deposed tyrant, who then can regain his favor? This is true of both individuals and nations alike, is what Elihu is affirming. So then we continue in verse 30. Mimlok Adam Hanev, that the godless man not reign, or from reigning. Mimlok, you have the mem preposition where the noon has assimilated into the mem, and then we have the malak, to reign. Here we have the cow infinitive construct preceded by this prepositional mem. So from reigning, the godless man might not, that the godless man, might not reign, mokshe am, that there be none to ensnare the people, or from those that ensnare the people. Mokshim is from makash, to share, to ensnare. It's the cow participle masculine plural from makash, to ensnare. So as we look at verse 30, the judgment of verse 29 is brought in order that the godless man might not reign and ensnare the people, is Elihu's argument. So in 31, he continues, Ki el ha amar nasati, for unto God has any said unto God, Nasati, I have borne like chastisement, lo echbo, and yet I offend not. Here we have, has anyone said, the interrogative hey, followed by amar, the cow imperfect or cow perfect, third masculine singular. Nasati is the cow perfect first common singular from nasa, to bear. And I, though I offend not, that I have borne chastisement, though I offend not. Echbo from chabal, to offend, the cow imperfect first common singular. Seeing the judgment is brought on the wicked, is any one so bold as to speak to God that he has borne chastisement which he doesn't deserve? This is really what Elihu is reasoning. And then he continues in verse 32. Bil adeh echazeh ata horeni, in order that which I do not, that which I see, teach me. That which I see not, I should say, that which I see not, teach me. Horeni is from the verb yara, to teach. It's a hiphil imperative masculine singular with the pronominal suffix first common singular in the e here. So from yara, and the hen is sort of, the noon is sort of a hinge here. So teach me, or cause me to learn. Im avel pa'alti lo Osif. If iniquity I have committed or I have done, I will not do it more. I will not do it anymore. Pa'alti is the cow perfect first common singular from pa'al, and osif is from yasaf. It's the hifio imperfect first common singular from yasaf, to do more or to continue. And so as we look at verse 32, the thought is the one complaining to God for his injustice is again represented as asking God to teach him what he cannot see so that he can stop what he is doing and do it no more. Seems to be the thought here. And then we continue in verse 33. Ha me imacha yashal lemena ki maasta, shall his recompense according to your will, or be that which is with you, shall his recompense be as you desire? Ki masata, for you loathe it. Ki ata tibhar velo ani, so that you must choose, or you must choose and not I. Uma yadata daber, that is, and what I say or what I know, what I know, speak. Excuse me, and what you know, speak. Notice here, yeshalamena is from shalom. Shall his recompense be? Shall it be as you would like to see it? Notice yeshalamena, so is from shalom, to recompense, a PL imperfect, third masculine singular from shalom. So shall his recompense be as you think it should be, or as you would have it. Ki ma'asta, for you loathe it. Ma'as is a cow perfect second masculine singular from ma'as, to loathe. Ki ata tibhar velo ani. So you must choose and not I. Tibhar is the cow imperfect second masculine singular from bahar, and then therefore speak. Uma yadata daber. What you know, speak. Yadata is the cow perfect second masculine singular from yada, and daber is the PO imperative masculine singular. So the thought here in 33 is, at this point, Elihu, in scorn, seems to ask, if Job presumes to dictate the divine government of recompense, let him propose then a better economy of the moral order. Job, who is dissatisfied, must suggest the alternative. Not I, who am content with God's government. And I'm getting this quote from the Sonsino series of the Bible by Job, on Job, on page 180. So now we move to verses 34 and 35. Or I should say, we move 34 to 35. Anshe levav yomaruli, men of understanding will say to me, V'gever chacham shomei ali, and every wise man hears me. Again, anshe levav, two nouns in construct, yomaru is from Ahmad to say the cow imperfect, third masculine plural from Ahmad, and every man of understanding, or I should say, a wise man that hears me. Every man who's wise that hears me. Uh, Shomea is from Shama, a cow participle masculine singular from Shama. And so as we're looking at verse 34, the thought seems to be Elihu reasons that wise men hear him will agree with him, that Job speaks without knowledge and proper, really understanding or discernment. And that goes on to verse 35, where he goes on to say, Job lo bida'at yedaber. And Job does not speak with knowledge. Yedaber is a PL imperfect third masculine singular from dabar, and his words, u devarav lo behaskel. That is, his words are not with discernment. Notice haskel here is your Hiphil infinitive absolute, with preceded by the inseparable bait here. So his words are without discernment. And again, the thought is Elihu, as we said, reasons that wise men who hear him will agree with him that Job speaks really without knowledge or really without proper discernment. So then we conclude in verses 36 and 37. Avi yibachein Eyob ad netzach. Would that Job were tested or tried unto the end. Yibachein is a nifal imperfect third masculine singular from bachan. Would that he be tested, Job, unto the end. Al teshuvot be'anshe avin. That is, because of the answerings that he's given are like or are in accordance with men of wickedness. In other words, his answers are like wicked men. And then, furthermore, verse 37, why is that so? Ki Yosef al Hatato Fesha. That is, for he adds unto his sin rebellion. Benenu Yispok, he claps his hand among us. And Vayerav Amarav La'el, and he multiplies his words against God. Ki Yosef is from Yasaf. Here we have a Hiphil imperfect third masculine singular from Yasaf, historically Vasaf. And so Yasif became Yosef. And so he adds unto his sin rebellion. Benenu Yispok, he claps his hand among us. And Yispok is from Safak, cow imperfect, third masculine singular. Vayerav Amarav La'el. And he multiplies his words toward God or against God. Here we have a Hiphil imperfect, third masculine singular from the root rabbah, to multiply. So he multiplies his words against God. And the thought here in these two concluding verses by Elihu is because of Job's questioning of God's justice, he adds further rebellion to his sin. At this point, Elihu is simply arguing just like Job's three friends. Elihu believes that Job has sinned, and that is why he is suffering, and that he has added further sin by raising a question about the justice of the ruler of the universe, seems to be his argument. So I'll stop there, and then next video we'll move to the Elihu's third speech and try to continue our grammatical analysis with commentary.